What do we have here? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Fibs Reacts, and in today's video we're going to be discussing something that's kind of been making its rounds on the internet lately with the recent release of the new Superman movie not too long ago. There's been a few behind the scenes clips that have been going around the internet lately, and some of them have been causing a bit of conversation, causing a bit of controversy, unfortunately. One in particular being this clip here.
Got it. Great. Okay.
So for those of you who didn't see the movie, David Corenswet playing Superman Clark Kent in this scene with Rachel Brosnahan, who plays Lois. And as I discussed in my review for the Superman movie, I do have to agree that I think David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan had great chemistry as these two characters. However, off set and outside of this movie, there have been, some pretty interesting hints as to whether or not this relationship between these two people went beyond these characters. Now, I think, this has kind of become a trend lately in Hollywood of, actors and actresses playing, romantic opposites, when seen in interviews and things like that and red carpets, they seem to still be in character, and it's just weird and unsettling, especially when most of these people are already in committed relationships. Now, as someone who used to do theater and a couple times did play characters who, were in some kind of romantic relationship with someone else, I can personally say that it can be very difficult to separate your character from real life. Because you are, spending a lot of time with this person, being on set or, whatever the case may be. You're obviously, doing a lot of scenes together and a lot of conversation. You're trying to, get into character. You're trying to understand your character. And obviously, you do have to have some kind of romantic interaction, whether that be a hug or a kissing or whatever the case may be. And yeah, it can be really easy to, end up developing, real life feelings for that other person just because you find yourself, just almost getting into character too much that you kind of forget that you are actually, playing a character. And it does take a lot of self-control to, really separate the two. And I know for me personally, when I would play these roles, this is like back in high school when I used to do theater, I would have to respect the relationship of whoever I was acting with. There were, two cases that I can think of between, me and my female castmate where they were in a relationship, like they had boyfriends. And you can imagine how nerve-wracking that was for me, having to kiss them on stage, not only in front of an entire audience, but also in front of their boyfriend. But what I did not do was, when the scene was done, when the show was over, when the curtains closed, I did not continue to go kiss this person, to go make out with this person. I was very focused on, only doing what I had to do as that character and not bring that into real life out of respect for that other person and their relationship. And so all of that kind of lends itself to today's conversation. I will mostly be, focusing on this recent case with Rachel Brosnahan, just because it's kind of been, going viral on the internet. So in this clip, in this behind the scenes clip, and I don't know if this was, leaked or if this was, like an official behind the scenes, reel that, Warner Brothers or DC released. But in any case, we see this, scene with Clark and Lois that we remember from the movie where she's, going to interview Superman, and her and Clark are, having this, kind of romantic interaction where there is a kiss. They're doing the scene and we hear James Gunn say cut, and after he says cut, Rachel Brosnahan gives 2 little smooches to David Cornsweet. When a director calls cut, that is your cue to stop. And I believe it was in some kind of social media post. I don't think it was for this clip in particular. It might have been, but someone had made a comment. It's genuinely sad to see your career being tucked out to be remembered as a because your wife couldn't handle herself with her co-actor. Like, bro, let's have some self-love and stand up for yourself, man. Leave her to be with him if she wants that much at the end of the day. So again, kind of a broken paragraph here, but essentially what this guy is saying is like, Rachel Brosnahan is married to this guy, not David Corenswet, to this completely different guy. And actually what ended up happening, or what's kind of been causing a lot of controversy, is her husband, her significant other, liked this comment. And so there's speculation that, is their relationship in turmoil? Is there a divorce on the horizon? I mean, who knows? And, we keep seeing this in a lot of, recent movies, and it's almost becoming like this weird trend now of these co-stars who are in their own, relationships, kind of doing this weird flirty thing, for the whole world to see. Obviously the biggest example in recent history was, the Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell thing. And then we also saw it with, Scarlett Johansson and Jonathan Bailey for Jurassic World Rebirth. And then obviously, Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby, promoting Fantastic Four. And I think what's also, kind of interesting and, kind of sad, to be honest, is the media can have a tendency to feed into this kind of behavior, and not like in a good way. For example, Rachel Brosnahan and David Corenswet did this interview, and so they were just asking some questions about their chemistry and what's it like playing Clark and playing Lois or whatever for the new Superman movie. And this particular interviewer had the audacity to ask these 2 people who, again, are in committed relationships, who's the best kisser?
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it.
Definitely me, for sure.
I don't quite know how to answer that. She's a very well-trained, well-disciplined actress.
Thank you.
I have no idea who would be better. I'm not sure you can grade a kisser. I don't know. That's probably all I've got there.
And you can tell by David Corenswet's response, you can tell he's kind of caught off guard by it. He doesn't really know how to answer. He's trying to kind of maneuver his way around the question, but very unprofessional to ask that kind of question. That's definitely not something that you would ask someone who is, number one, playing a character, but also who is in a relationship. And again, most times, actors don't really want to discuss, having to do, intimate moments with their co-stars. I know for me, when I used to do acting and I would, do these kissing scenes and whatnot. And of course, I was in high school, and so everyone's just hyper focused on that one particular moment. And I always just hated being asked about that, because the actress I was working with, again, had a boyfriend. So if I could have cut it out of the show, I probably would have. But again, we both understood that what we were doing was acting. But it seems, some of these actors and actresses nowadays just can't differentiate the two. It's like we have to, have the self-control as actors, as actresses. Now listen, if you are, you know, if it's two people who are single, you know, who are not, you know, committed to anyone, and they want to, you know, do whatever offset outside of whatever project they're a part of, by all means. I mean, we saw that, you know, for example, you know, Chase Stokes and Madeline Klein, you know, they met, you know, doing Outer Banks, and they ended up dating because of Outer Banks, and they played, you know, romantic opposites. But, you know, in this case, they were both single as far as we know. So like that's okay. But we are talking about people who are already in relationships, you know, doing this kind of behavior, and it's just not right. And I think what also bugs me is when questions are raised about this kind of behavior and people try to blame it on insecurity. Like, oh, I can't believe, you know, Rachel Brosnahan's husband would, you know, like a comment like that. What is he too, you know, insecure of himself? Is he too insecure of his masculinity that he can't, you know, trust his wife to do her job, to be an actress? Well, we just saw in black and white. We legit saw the footage. We saw it in 4K that was not acting. Because if it were acting, it would not have taken place after the director called cut. And her husband has every right to be upset about this. Because I know that I personally, and I'm sure anybody, would be upset if they saw that. I mean, not to get on my soapbox here, but marriage is, you know, seemingly becoming less and less popular as time goes on because people just don't want to commit to a relationship. Everyone just wants to date. Everyone wants to just, you know, do whatever. And no one wants to, you know, take accountability for anything. No one wants to, you know, commit themselves to one person, which, by the way, is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing to find that one person who you love and you want to commit yourself to and you want to be loyal to. But again, unfortunately, that's just something that has just become less and less popular as time has gone on. That's the whole point of being an actor, is you are acting. It's fake. It's not real. It's not supposed to be real. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I would love to know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. Thank you guys again for watching. Thank you for the support. Please be sure to give the video a like and subscribe. And as always, catch you later.